Welcome to PHP Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 276.
Yeah.
An update episode.
That's right.
And it's...
You're coming with your late night DJ voice.
Am I?
Yeah.
I don't know.
For sure.
You know, I feel really rested.
That's good.
Like super rested. I don't know what's been going on, but lately I've been going to bed like at 10 or 11 at night.
Oh, man, that's late.
That's early for me. I'm a 1 to 2 in the morning kind of guy.
That's sad.
And then I've been waking up like at 6 in the morning.
See, that's not good for your circadian rhythms, man.
Well, it's getting there though.
All right.
And here's the other thing. And you know, I know we're updating here. So basically my son's sport has taken over my life. Right. And
you're at that stage of parenting.
Oh, you know, it's funny. When I hear to give parenting, like, this is the reselling podcast. If you're brand new and you're listening, this is a reselling podcast. But sometimes we like to touch on, you know, on things that affect all of us. And, you know, as I'm still an educator, and so are you, I remember way back when I remember reading an article that said you should not get your kids involved in sports until they're older. Because once they get in sports, especially the way it is now, like that will dominate your family life, right? So, you know, if you do baseball, you'll end up doing travel ball. If you do volleyball, you do travel ball, right? Which means you're doing it year round. Now, luckily, my son isn't doing that, but here's how it's been affecting my reselling. I have not gone to garage sales all January.
Yep.
Every Saturday's been
meets on
wrestling tournament, and I'm getting up earlier than I would for garage sales. Like this last time, I had to get up at 4:45 in the morning to get there by. I think it was like by 6 o'clock, and then at 6:30 they had weigh-ins, and so it's been killing my sourcing ability when it comes to garage sales. But again, on the positive end, it's like I wouldn't have been able to do these things with my son had I not been reselling.
Yeah,
right. It gave me the liberty to say, you know what, I don't need to work today. I don't need to come in, and I can go to this tournament all day and sit around all day and wait for the next match and be there for my kid. Due to reselling.
Yeah. And then you just adjust the way you plan out your week, right? If you know you've got things like that coming up, you source in the week, and then that Saturday, instead of sourcing, you just let the sales come in. And then when you get home, you pack, you know what I mean? So you can always adjust your schedule, which is nice. It is harder when you go, I'm not going to source at all, or you were planning on sourcing that day. And so you didn't do any other sourcing that week. And then that day ends up getting consumed by other things. But yeah, you definitely have the flexibility as a reseller.
Now, the other end of that is you're talking about sales coming in. So let's talk about this. And I know you got a little bit to talk about here too. I don't know what's happened. So first 2 weeks of January were the best 2 weeks of eBay I've had since our major health problem started 2 years ago. Because remember, that summer was incredible sales, right? You know, everything got shut down. And people were going online. I remember that summer, things were incredible. Actually, I think that summer for me was better than, at least on eBay, than my Q4. Right. And so these first 2 weeks of January, I was like, what is going on? If this is the way things are going to be in 2022, I think I'm done with Amazon. I'm just going to stick to eBay. I'm just going to do, because I love eBay. Out of all the reselling, it's eBay. Why? Because I love the treasure hunt. I love going to garage sales. I love, sourcing at local deals and, putting vintage collectible items on eBay. That's what I love. I don't like the Amazon retail arbitrage, find a product, or even if I do private label or whatever, it's just warehouse work. Okay. And then this last week, okay, so this is dropping on Wednesday. So we're talking 1 week from today, in the past. Sales just died. Not like died and, it was in the hospital and, it flat line. The doctor came in, declared eBay dead. No, this is like dead, buried 6 feet underneath. And then they put other, coffins on top of that, like dead.
It's pretty intense, man.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely have not been, getting very many sales recently either. It's been a weird time. I mean, we still have like the occasional one or two trickle in, but I think I've had in the last week as many return requests as I've had sales, which never happens. Like
I know
it might be for every 10 to 20 sales, you might have one return request here and there, but it's like, oh, I got a sale. Oh, I got a return request. So it's just like oh, man.
You get anxiety every time like the sound comes up that it's a message. You're like, all right, what happened now? Yeah. Right. And so I don't know. I mean, did the former CEO like find the master switch somewhere and just shut things down? Like, who knows? And let us know in the comments. Are you experiencing the same, or are things just rolling through? Because I got to tell you, my post on Instagram in the beginning of the year were like, "Wow, sales keep coming in. Look at this sale. Look at this sale." And now I'm kind of like, "All right, I sold the He-Man figure for like $15."
Yeah. No, see, for me, I thought maybe it was because I haven't been listing as much. The last couple of weeks, my time has been pretty consumed by other things. So I haven't really listed a lot recently. So I was like, well, maybe that's why my sales are slow. But have you still been consistently listing?
Yes.
Yikes.
I've been listing. I've been shipping on time. I just don't know. I just don't know. Now, I also have done this long enough where it doesn't scare me, at least not yet. If we go on for a week like this, then I'm going to go, okay, there's something going on, right? Maybe, I don't know, I had too many defects or I don't know. Maybe I need to start paying for pay-per-click. I don't know, right? I don't think that's the case. Because as long as I've done eBay, I've had these periods where it's just like dead and you don't know why. It hasn't been this dead ever, I would say, in the last 3-4 years for me. But you have these moments, and so there's 3 reactions you can have, right? One is you could list more and keep listing, and that's what I'm going to do, right? When we're done with this podcast, I got a couple sourcing things I got to do, and then I'm just going to get back to listing. My helper, I dropped off probably, I don't know, about 200 items for her to, take pictures of, make drafts, and so those are going to come live in about a week, okay? Your other option is go, you know what? I have plenty of inventory in my store. There's a lot of sourcing opportunity. In January, there's a lot of sourcing that you can do. And I did a lot of that. So, you can keep sourcing because you can't stop, especially if you're full time. The worst thing you can do is get analysis paralysis, where you start thinking, okay, what do I need to end listings and do so similar? Do I need to, push my promoted listings more? Do I need to start cross posting to other platforms? Like, you get all this analysis, you start watching YouTube, you start listening to podcasts, like, how can I restore my store? And to me, that is the worst thing you can do.
No, I would say there's nothing wrong with doing that as long as you actually take some action on some of those
That's
thoughts.
what I mean. Yeah. That's what I meant by paralysis.
Yeah.
Like, if you analyze and you take action, sure, that's what you need to do. But if all you do is sit and worry, isn't like worry doesn't add time to your life? There's some quote about worry, like worry doesn't add anything to your life. Yeah. Right.
You can add one more day to your life with worry, right?
There you go.
Or an inch to your height. You just can't do it.
There you go. That's the quote I was looking for. And so, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to keep listing as I have been. I got some great sourcing opportunities coming up, and, I just got to write it out. And this is why I also push, when you go full time, make sure you have savings, make sure you have, a backup, because you never know. Right. And here's the crazy thing. Those first 2 weeks were enough to take care of all my bills in January and more. So I could go 2 weeks without sales. Not that I want that, but I could. Right. And so you always have to be ready for that. Now, one more thing, and then I'll move on to you because I'm saying too much here, is, it's interesting. Every year around this time, January, February, the off-price stores have those yellow tag sales. Right? And usually you get stuff for super clearance. Right now, I'm looking at an awesome elf costume I picked up for about $16 that will sell probably for $100. There's a lot of good deals out there. Do you want that costume, Mike?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Not for $100.
Not for $100. But, I went out there and I went sourcing, and usually I hit 20, 30, 40 stores, 50. I try to hit as many. And this year I had plans to go into other parts of the country, and, there just wasn't much inventory. Right. And so again, I'm not sure. I think there's something happening as far as there's a transformation going on in the reselling world. It's all about adapting. And, I still found deals. I still found good stuff. It still was, worth it to me to drive and spend tons of hours sourcing. But it was a little different. So I'm a little unsettled right now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. Talk about unsettled. I mean, we're just in a weird stage of our life right now with trying to sell our fifth wheel because it's like typically when you're doing things in life, there's like a normal order of things, and we're trying to we've got a goal in mind. We've got a mission every year. my wife and I, we're really good at communication. So we're always talking about like, what's our family goal? What's our mission? What are we trying to accomplish? What do we have to do to get there? And we talk about doing that on the podcast with your reselling. You should constantly be reflecting. What have you done? Where have you gone? And we're kind of at a place where we almost have to do things backwards to get to where we want to be. So without going into a lot of details, like the first domino that needs to fall is we have to sell our fifth wheel. And so that's kind of become our reselling right now because we bought this fifth wheel. And our original goal was we got the fifth wheel. We're going to live in it for like 5 years, get it paid off. And then once we sell it, we're going to be able to get like 20 to 30,000. We were hoping in equity. And so the idea was, hey, we're going to almost pay what we would pay in rent if we were still renting, but we get to walk away with this with a little bit of equity, if
and also catch up on some other student loans and all that.
Student loans. And we've been able to do that. We've been able to pay off vehicles. We've been able to get, a good dent on any debt we've had. We really have no debt besides we still owe a little bit on our fifth wheel. Luckily, we're not upside down by any means, especially because the market is really high right now. But we've had a lot of like issues with the fifth wheel. And it's one of those things where now that we're reflecting back, we realize, okay, 5 years might have been a long shot idea in that these things things break down, things have to be repaired. And we realize there's a lot of repairs we've had to do. And so the last couple of weeks, literally the last probably 3 weeks has been nothing but moving stuff out, deep cleaning, repairing things that need to be repaired, like almost every waking hour. But I kind of have to remember that if this thing sells for what we're hoping it'll sell for, we're going to end up flipping it for a good amount of money. Mm-hmm. We're going to actually make money right now after only being in it for 2.5 years, as opposed to waiting the 5 years. And that's a good place to be for us right now. So we're hoping this thing works and everything goes and it sells quickly. And we actually had somebody come out and look at it. It's just like when you do like OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace and you talk to people and then people flake on you. And so there's always that risk, and especially with something like this, because we live kind of out in the boondocks. And so a family drove out, they drove over an hour to come look at it. They spent an hour at the fifth wheel. We were walking around, showing them all the stuff. Their kids were looking at it. And they're like, all right, we'll get back to you, by the end of the weekend. And we never heard back from them. Right. And so it's just a roller coaster of, is this going to happen? And so every time we show it, there's the issue of, okay, like, are we wasting time? We're getting all the pop outs out. We're getting everything ready for somebody to come. We have to walk them through the whole thing, explain everything, and it doesn't sell. But the difference I kind of look at is we're not talking about, you're trying to make $50 or $100 on OfferUp. Right. Like when you get flaked on for that, it's like, oh, it's brutal. But the nice thing is, even if we get flaked on, even if it takes a few more months than we were anticipating for this fifth wheel, we're talking about, $25,000. And so it's like, all right, this is worth it. Like, of course, it's disheartening every time it happens, but the amount of time you almost have to imagine for that kind of return on investment or that kind of equity gain, you're going to potentially have to put more hours of work into it. And so our listing has kind of been on hold. Our sourcing has kind of been on hold, and we're still selling things, which has been great. So we got eBay still running. Things are still trickling in, but not at the level we'd like, obviously. And I think part of that, originally I thought part of that was because we weren't listing as much. But if your example, and if other people, let us know in the comments, this could just be a weird season. And it is weird because taxes are coming up, and until people know what they're going to get for tax returns, I feel like maybe people are a little worried and they don't know when tax returns are going to come in. And a lot of the extra money that was coming in, like I think the child credit, $600 per kid per month, that thing has ended. And so people are taking a hit on their disposable income. And I think that we're starting to see that with the dip in sales. So we'll see. I'm excited for it to sell because then I think I'll have my weekends and my weeknights back so that I can start listing and sourcing and go a little bit harder on eBay, which will be great. And just not having the stress. I mean, if you've ever sold anything really, really big, and I'm sure many of you listeners have sold houses, maybe you've sold cars, and sometimes it's quick and fast, right? We sold a house a while back and we had listed it on the market. Within 2 or 3 days, we had a bunch of offers. One of them was a cash offer with like a really short escrow period. And we took that offer, and it was like within 2 weeks, our house was sold, money was in the bank. Nice. And so that happens. Other people with other things, it's like you wait and you wait and you wait, you drop the price and you change how you're advertising it. And it's so you never know, especially with big things like that. But let us know in the comments, what's been like a big flip you've done. Maybe it's been a house, maybe it's been a car, maybe it's been some kind of travel trailer, something like that. And what was your experience with that? So, because reselling, a lot of times we think of, the small things, you're making $100 profit here, $500 profit here. But, there's probably several of you who've regularly flip cars or flip things like that, where you're making significantly more amounts of money, but the investment on each item could be more,
Yeah, agreed. And, it's funny because I had some people comment on our last podcast about reselling may get harder in 2022. And most of the comments that were negative were more on the social media side, not on YouTube directly. And, that we were wrong or I was wrong. And I would love to be wrong. I would love for that entire podcast to be completely off, for us to be completely dead wrong about it being harder in 2022. That 2022 would be the greatest year of reselling ever and the easiest. Again, I don't mind being wrong.
Yeah, especially if it's that. Right?
Yeah, right. I mean, I would love that. But right now I'm kind of, maybe it's self-fulfilled prophecy, but right now I'm seeing kind of some of those things happening, right? And it's already happening. So we'll see how things go. I still, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still reselling. Mike's still reselling. We've always learned that it's about adapting, right? Finding what people want to buy and then adapting accordingly. All right. So another thing that's been unsettling for us is our ending of Buy Me a Coffee.
Yeah, we had a good run with Buy Me a Coffee. It was nice to, when we signed up for Buy Me a Coffee, one of the reasons we did it is we had been out for a while when we started Buy Me a Coffee, but we wanted to make sure people knew, like, we had no intention of putting our stuff behind a paywall. Like, Buy Me a Coffee was a very clear way of saying, hey, this is a way for you to support us, to say thank you, to just give us a little donation without having to feel like, things might be going behind a paywall. And we've had some issues with Buy Me a Coffee. We pretty much lost all of our supporters, not because our supporters backed out, but because Buy Me a Coffee changed their system. And so because of that, we're at a place where Buy Me a Coffee was keeping PHP Podcast going. That was what was allowing us to give up the time during the week. We had enough people saying, hey, thank you for the content you're putting out. And by losing all of those people, because, a lot of times people say, yeah, sure, I'll sign up for $5 a month. They sign up and then they forget that they've signed up. I don't mean forget they signed up, but like they don't want to have to go back in every month and re-sign up, right? So now to say to all of our supporters, hey, you need to go back in and find a new payment method and re-sign up. It not only is that not fair to our listeners, but we're probably going to lose a bunch of people who, are just not going to deal with the hassle of that, or maybe they don't have that payment method. So we've decided we're going to shift over to Patreon. And I think now we've established, after we're going on year 4 of the podcast, something like that, 3 or 4, 3.5, something
4 at least.
Yeah. So we've been doing the podcast for a long time. So I think people recognize PHP Podcast is not a gimmick of, hey, let's give you 5 minutes of content, and then if you want the real stuff, you're going to have to pay us for it. So we have many people who have been listening for a long time that feel like we provided some content, some entertainment, some Bolo, something that's helped you in your reselling life. And they want to support us. They want to say, hey, thank you for what you're putting out. So we're going to do Patreon, but we're keeping our ethic of we're not hiding anything behind a paywall. So if you sign up for a Patreon, this is not hey, sign up for this tier and then you'll get the full podcast. Sign up for this tier and you'll get the podcast plus bonus this plus. We're not doing that. We just want to say, hey, this is an easier method for those of you who want to support us on a monthly basis or even a one-time basis, and say thanks for the content you're putting out. So just know we're not hiding anything behind a paywall, but we have our Patreon link below if you'd like to sign up. And of course, we'll continue doing like our Buy Me a Coffee Zoom sessions, but they're going to be, I guess, Patreon Zoom sessions. And again, this isn't like additional content. It's just a way to thank those who are supporting us and hang out every so often and just chat. Usually they're teaching us more than we're teaching them. So again, thank you to all of you who've been loyal listeners, supporters, and friends of our podcast. And we ask that if you've in the past given, or if you've thought about giving, man, I feel like this is like the most shameless plug shill ever. But you know what?
We gotta get through it. We gotta get through it, man. We gotta get through it.
Please, keep Heroes of Podcast going, because just like not getting sales for a couple weeks on eBay is tough. To go from, hey, we were being supported by our listeners, and now we have no support at all. And so to go a couple of months with no money for the podcast makes it a little bit challenging. So we would really think, we've had a couple of people already donate on the PayPal.
Yeah,
so
thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Again, that gives us the hope of, okay, I think we're okay. We don't have to walk away from the podcast because we never want to do that. So thank you again for all of you who support us.
Agreed. So on the practical aspect, there's 3 tiers. The lowest tier is 555. I had to, do some inflation kind of adjustments. So, $5.55.
Patreon takes their cut,
They do. I try to adjust it. So it's the same. And so it's $5.55 a month, just to say thank you. There's also higher tiers. And again, nothing behind the paywall. Now, I will say, I do think in the future that there may be some things tied to different tiers, whether it be merch, whether it be different contests, stuff like that, tied into it. But as far as content goes, our content will continue to be free. I just, looking at Patreon, there's much more that we can do with Patreon than we couldn't do with Buy Me a Coffee. And so we're trying to look at those avenues. We have some other friends that also are influencers and they do a lot of things and they don't use a paywall, but instead they develop a closer knit community via Patreon. So that is our hope. So yeah, go to the link below, patreon.com/Pure Hustle Podcast.
Yeah.
All right. What are some random stories you got here, Mike?
I got one random story. So I'm at work the other day. My wife sends me a text message. She goes, I changed the eBay password to blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm like, okay. And then I didn't even ask why. I'm like, oh, she must have logged in and excuse me, forgot the password or something. And then I get home and she's like, okay, so here's what happened. I got an email and it's an official, like it is as official of an email as you can get from eBay. Like it is, even if you look at where it's from, and it was a collections email, collections@ebay.com. Like what? The email is at ebay.com. It's like not at ebay money something at gmail. You know what I mean? Like it was an eBay email and we're looking through it. And we're like, what is this? And there's this long email about like our account going into collections. It doesn't make any sense because we've never owed money to eBay. Like we always pull out our money after. It
takes a lot to go into collections.
Well, and that's the thing. And so my wife instantly logs into the account and it's like, no, we don't owe anything. Like we're always up to date on our payments. And even if we weren't, like they have our PayPal attached to our bank, right? Like they would always get their money. There's no reason they wouldn't get their money. So she's reading through it again. And so on the email, and she was even unsure about it when she did it, but she's like, there was like the link of like, to sign in and blah, blah, blah. So she clicked the sign in link and she signs in through the email. And then within like a minute of doing it, she's like, and I would have, like, I knew right away too, as soon as she was telling me, I'm like, oh, it's a phishing email. And she's like, as soon as I signed in, I'm like, I'm not comfortable with this. So she instantly signed out of that. eBay, went onto the app, signed out, signed back in, and then changed our password. So we have a new password now. So anyways, you got to be careful because those things come out. We've talked about being scammed before. And I looked through the email and usually you could tell with phishing emails that they're a little off. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like happens all the time at my school. Like we get emails from my principal that's like, make sure you click on this link and sign up for blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we could tell like, that's not my principal. And then we get an email from our school's IT department, like, do not open this email. Yeah. This is a fake email. But for some reason, I don't know if eBay got hacked or an eBay account or somebody just found a way to basically mimic an eBay account when they send out. But we're pretty sure it was a phishing account. And if you don't know, phishing, spelled with a P, is just a way to basically to get you to sign into your account through their server, which then tracks your username and password. And then they now have your username and password. So then they can go onto your account and do whatever they want. So that was kind of just a random thing. Like luckily we were able to change our password and nothing happened. And, we've had credit card numbers stolen before. And just like banks, I feel like eBay would be pretty good with, hey, this was a fraudulent thing that happened. Like we'll get you covered. But it was just good that we didn't have to go down that route of like, oh, somebody just drained our entire eBay account. And now we have to go deal with eBay and say, hey, that was not real. Like, can we get our money back? So
we should post that on Insta.
Yeah.
Send me the screenshot.
I'll send you the screenshot of the email. Yeah. It was pretty, it was just one of those, like, I'm glad my wife had, she did click on the link.
Terrible feeling.
Yeah. She did click on the link, but again, when you have something that looks official and looks like a collections thing, it's like, what do I do? But luckily we weren't actually scammed, but we were close. We could have been scammed. So keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. That would be awful, right? Like that's not a way to start the new year. For sure.
Trust me, I think about that sometimes, but I agree. Like there's so many securities in place and I find that now, there are ways that people can scam you, right? You hear about like crypto, I think is one of the biggest places that people get scammed. Actually, I think today when we're recording this, I think crypto.com like shut down all withdrawals from their accounts because I guess they're getting a lot of hacks. Mm-hmm. But, I agree with Mike. And Amazon, I would say, is the one that gets a lot of those spam emails. So if you're an Amazon seller, you'll see it all the time. I get stuff from China all the time too. Like, it looks official. And then you start looking at the addresses. It's like an address with Chinese characters. I'm like, wait a second.
Yep.
What is this? So, all right. Now, I have a couple of things. One's a random story. One's just a tip. The first one is, I've been doing a lot of local sourcing, right? I think I'm going to mention this at the end of the podcast. I'm going to see how long I can go without going to thrift stores at least only once a week. I still want to go like once a week, but I'm moving away from thrift stores. And so I found a local deal. And the reason I found this local deal is because I had offered this individual a certain amount of money for a bunch of Hawaiian shirts at one point in time. And I didn't realize how long ago. It was August. And they're like, we don't want to sell for that much. We still think that it's worth as much. And I think it was like $12 a shirt. So I'm scouring through, I'm looking, and I see an ad, and I'm like, wait a second, this is the same ad. And now they're trying to sell everything for $150, where initially I offered $180 and they didn't go for the $180. Now they're doing $150. And I'm like, wow, this has not sold. Right. And I'm not trying to shoot myself. Maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot, but here's the deal. You got to source things that people don't want to sell. I don't know if that makes sense, but what I find is, when I'm doing local stuff, when I'm trying to find stuff, it's really hard. For example, like video games. Like, if you're trying to source video games locally to sell on eBay, you need to be fast. You need to know what you're doing, and you got to make sure you lock in that deal within seconds, because it is crazy how competitive it is. I mean, I have my saved searches for, like Nintendo and different words I use, but it is rare that I can ever get to anything. I mean, because, the good thing about technology is it makes our lives easier. The bad thing about technology is that it brings on a lot more competition. So anyways, saw this ad and I contacted the lady. I'm like, hey, remember we were trying to make a deal, blah, blah. Would you do $125 for all the items? And she's like, yeah, sure. $125. So now I'm picking up all this up 6 months later for like $3 a piece. And all I need to do is sell like 2 or 3 of these shirts and I'm already in the profit. Right. So again, it goes to show you, like, sometimes patience wins. At that time, I was kind of like, oh man, I'm still going to make good profit, but I just didn't feel right about the deal. Like, once you have your number, like, you got to stick to it. I'm a big believer in that, because the more you compromise the numbers over and over and over and over time, the more it's going to cost you money. Where on this one, I stuck to my guns. I knew what the value of certain things were. And there's a lot of people out there that weren't willing to spend that much on these items, right? Because they're not big clothing sellers, or they don't know what kind of Hawaiian shirts sell and so on. So was able to make the deal, and probably going to make that profit back in a week, and then it's now going to add it to my inventory.
Yeah. And that's one of the nice things about local deals too, is I've experienced this. Like, I've listed something and somebody would offer me, like, I've listed it for 100. Somebody offers me like 60 and I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I could do 80 or 85. Like, that's as low as I'm going to go. And then like 6-7 months later, that item still hasn't sold. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to list this thing for like 50, that patient game can work on that, because if somebody's listed something locally and it hasn't sold in a long enough period of time, they might be like, I just want it gone. Like, I wish I would have taken that earlier offer. And so, you can definitely come in and clean up. And that's why, if you're doing OfferUp or you're doing Facebook Marketplace, don't be afraid to keep scrolling down to the older stuff. You'll find a lot of the older stuff when you ask, is this still available? A lot of them are going to be, no, sorry, this sold, forgot to update it. Or like no response. It's just like somebody who like 6 months ago opened up an OfferUp just to list this item and then have never logged into OfferUp again or something like that.
They might have died.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. But sometimes you can snag those older items and they're just happy to see that, oh gosh, I can finally get rid of this thing.
Yeah. So agreed. And the interesting thing about it is that, like Mike said, this individual probably, they're selling it to me $60 less than our original deal, right? So, yeah, patience wins sometimes. All right, this other thing is, you ever get messages where people are like, hey, would you take this offer? Instead of them sending an offer, or instead of you sending an offer, they just send you a message. So do you change anything when people do that?
It depends. I mean, there's times where, depending on the item, like if I really want to deal with it, where I'll just say, sure, send me an offer if it's a small item. But if it's like, you know what, I want this thing gone, I'll let them know. And we've talked about this in the past. Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna change the price of this item to that price that we've negotiated, and I will leave it up at that for, you know, however long, a couple hours. Please buy it right away. Otherwise, somebody else might buy it at this price.
Okay.
And then that gives them a sense of urgency too, right? The ball's in their court. Hey, you know, this item was for 100. I said, hey, would you take $80 plus however much for shipping? And I go, sure, I'm going to change the price of that. So go ahead and buy it. And I'm going to change it back in, you know, 1 hour. And they might be thinking, oh no, what if somebody else buys it at that price? Yeah. You know, so it can create a sense of urgency.
And you got to be careful too. If you run sales, like that sale will kick in after like an hour or two. I don't know how long it is. And then I don't know. I found that some smart ones like waited, like I forgot about it, and then they got it for like 25% less than the agreed upon price. But the other thing I've been doing lately, and this is because I don't know, there's been a lot of people that messaged me about doing this, is you go in, not only do you change the price, but you remove the promoted listing ad, right? So the ad rate. So now not only are you making that sale, but you're also gaining back that 2%, that 8%, that 10%, whatever rate you have it at that you would have lost with that promoted listing. So always remember to do that. Now I'm like, I used to be annoyed when people would send me offers through messages. And now I'm kind of like, I'm okay with that because now I can go in, I can get an immediate buy, which I'm wondering when eBay is going to eventually roll that out. Hopefully this spring, maybe it'll be part of the spring seller update where there's immediate pay on offers. But then I could also save the money that I would have lost with the promoted listings by just turning it off and then saying, hey, the listing's ready to go. You can purchase now. So, all right. Hey, before we move on to our reselling topics, I do want to talk about AmericanBoloboy.com. Really appreciate still how fast I get items. Right now I've been, I said I wasn't going to talk about Hot Wheels, but I'm still selling Hot Wheels and it requires a lot of bubble wrap. And I've been running out a lot, and their 2-day free shippings have been really quick. Sometimes if you're in a place geographically that's close to a warehouse, you can either get 1 day or you can actually drive out there and get it for cheaper through local pickup. So it's been great. They also have those Insta packs, which I've been able to ship out very valuable items. Basically, there's this thing where you press something and it pops and it like basically wraps itself around your item.
Yeah, it embraces it in a hug of love and protection that will ensure that your product arrives safely.
So if you haven't tried AmericanBoloboy.com, definitely encourage you to do so. If you use our promo code PRS Podcast, you will get a discount for first-time buyers. Definitely check them out. Appreciate all of you that continue to use our link. I think AmericanBoloboy.com has been kind to us that they still are helping us out through that affiliate link, even if you're a repeat buyer. So grateful for all of you. So again, AmericanBoloboy.com, go to the link below and get yourself some great bubble wrap.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to talk about what's going on in the reselling world?
Let's do it.
All right.
Sales may not be coming in like we'd like, but reselling never stops, never sleeps, because we're hustlers. Things are happening, and we're going to talk about them now. Orlando, take it away.
All right. So first, I want to clear the air on the padded flat rate.
There's a lot of fear on that.
There was a lot of fear on that.
I didn't even know it was a thing until you're like messaging me like, order now, order from this website. They have some in stock. I've ordered 10,000. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I didn't see that, but yes. So it was crazy because I didn't think of anything of it because I think like the first week of January, I ordered a ton of padded bubble wrap on Boloboy.com. I ordered a bunch of USPS padded flat rate envelopes because, I'd been cleared out because of Q4. And so I just ordered them. I didn't think anything of it. So what ended up happening is the post office had no stock. It was like out of stock. And then what happened on top of that is you go to the, to the link on it and it says page not found. So it just disappeared from the website. Then on top of that, people were referring to some USPS news story that they were phasing out certain envelopes. Well, the story was about prepaid flat rate envelopes. It wasn't even these envelopes, but it created some reselling, I guess, hysteria. Like we ourselves were posting. And so
the padded flat rate fiasco of 2022.
It is the grail of all shipping items, though.
I don't use them that much.
Really? Oh,
my go-to is, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but we do a lot of times, we just order poly mailers, like decorative ones or whatever, and we wrap our item in bubble wrap, stick it in, wrap it up, and it usually, in my experience, a lot of times ships just as cheaper than the padded flat, right?
Okay, I could see that.
I mean, it wasn't going to be the end of the world to us if we lost it, but I could see that if like you were just used to that, yeah, that'd be a huge loss.
Oh, I have a few items on Amazon that like that's what keep my costs low. Like the fact that I can ship them in those, and so. Yeah, I just, you saw a post and people are like, hey, I got mine. Other people are like, what if we resell these? And I'm like, please don't. That's a felony. And lo and behold, the next day they're all in stock and everything's there and everything's all good.
Yep. So moral of the story, things are going to be okay.
Things are going to be okay. All right. Now, this story, it kind of, I don't know. It's interesting. So this is on Business Insider, and UPS was talking about that it's processing a record number of returns, as in 1 in 4 Americans plans to ship stuff back to sellers after the holidays, and that basically that retail spending went up 8%, e-commerce went up 11%, but returns have actually gone up by, I think, 10%. Okay, as far as for everyone. So
it's brutal.
So I'm like, all right, maybe I got that number off, but it's gone up. Now you've been experiencing returns.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't as much. And I think the reason I haven't is with Amazon. I mentioned this before is I will not buy stuff at big box stores for retail arbitrage because it's very easy after the holidays for somebody to find the same product, buy it there, and then return the one that they paid a lot for. Mm-hmm. All my stuff has come from stores that once they're out of an item, they're out of an item.
Yep.
Right. So, and it's been good. But, again, and Mike and I go back and forth on this. And I think we just had an episode. We talked about this. But, one of the ways that I believe it's interesting that you can protect yourself from the damage of returns is by offering returns. Right. Because then you can do a partial credit. A lot of people will, when they know that, they can return it, they feel more comfortable. So you get a lot more sales, which kind of offsets the losses that you have from the returns that you will get when you offer returns.
Yeah. And even if you don't offer returns, people will get returns. It's just more likely that they're going to do INAD.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And then you got to deal with the eBay money back guarantee and like case gets open. To me, I'd rather have the hassle of offering returns than not offering returns and having to battle eBay over stuff.
Yeah, true.
So for example, just now I sold a Hot Wheel. And I sold it for $150. Collectible. The card was in mint condition. The blister pack was in mint condition. The person messages me back. Fake. Destroyed. I'm like, what? So what they did is, I don't know why, but they ripped open the Hot Wheel. The picture they showed me is a ripped open package and a Hot Wheel that's like messed up. That is not the Hot Wheel I sent. Mm. But luckily, via eBay, now I'm still waiting for the person to return it. But I called eBay. I said, hey, listen, I've never done this before, but I don't even want to give this person a partial refund. I think this person should not get a refund. They're like, hey, we'll help you out. We'll take care of it. Let's wait. Let's play this out. Wait till you get it back and we can resolve it at that end. And I think the fact that I give free returns and I've always given returns is helping me out in that scenario.
Yeah. I can almost feel like a situation like that. And I could be wrong. Anything could happen. But yeah, you're not going to buy a collectible like that and then open it. So what I would imagine, like this is just what I'm seeing.
I'm going where you're going.
I'd imagine that somebody's got a collection and then maybe their grandkid came over and they opened up one of the packets and it's like, no, you can't open that box. You've ruined my... That's it. I'm buying another one on eBay and I'll send them back the one you've opened. Because then they can almost just trade one for another.
Oh, 100%. That's what I think happened. Mm-hmm. I think he had one that wasn't in great condition and now he has one that's in great condition.
Yep.
Right. Again, I think if you've listened to the podcast long enough, you know that Mike and I don't believe there's a lot of scamming going out there. But I think
it happens.
It happens. So, all right. Now I'm going to get controversial. And the views expressed are not necessarily those of Mike. So,
yeah, I speak for myself.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on Facebook Marketplace right now?
I actually haven't been. I've kind of been sticking to OfferUp mostly for my local deals.
Okay.
But so I guess I don't have an opinion on Facebook Marketplace right now.
All right. So I find that Facebook Marketplace has the most scammers out of any platform right now.
Mm.
It's obnoxious. Like, you ever get it in your feed on Facebook whenever you are on Facebook? And it's like, one was like for a thing that catches your hair trimmings when you're shaving kind of deal. And I'm like, why is this on my feed? Like, why do I care about this? Or there's a thing like, one of my favorites is like, my daughter was just born and in celebration, I want to sell this Nintendo Switch for $50 with all these games. Like, what? Like, why can't Facebook is able to do so much shady stuff, but yet Facebook can't remove these ads? Like, I don't understand.
It's a lot to wade through. You know what I mean? Like, there are people
There's
who literally
so much of it.
There are people that that's their job. Like, their entire job is to scam people. And some of them are just nefarious, bad people who are looking for a buck. And some of them are people potentially in other countries, third world countries, and they're just desperate. And all they have is a really cheap internet connection and access to the internet. And I'm not saying that everybody in those situations is doing this, but I know that a lot of people who are doing this are in really tough situations. And so to them, it's, hey, I'm going to send out literally all day long, nothing but scam. And even if like a fraction of 1% of them come through, I'm making enough money to pay, feed my family. And so that's why
that's what they're doing. They're feeding their family.
Well, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. There are nefarious people who are just like looking for a quick buck, and they're making a bunch of money, and they're not in a bad situation. But I do think that there probably are some people who are really, I mean, because I've watched the videos. Like, there's some fun YouTube videos of people who like scam the scammers back.
Oh,
like,
yeah, those
people
are awesome.
call and they, they're on the computer, and the scammer is trying to get access to their computer, but the whole time the person is actually like kind of like a computer hacker, and they're like hacking the scammer's computer.
So awesome.
And it's great. But I mean, I have seen some where the scammers like literally have like broken down crying, and it seems legitimate, and they're just like, I don't know what else to do. Like, this is how I make my money. Like, I have nothing else, and I've been to other countries. I've been to Nepal, I've been to Africa. And I can imagine that for some people, like the reason I'm saying this is for some people, I mean, the reason why NFT games have been profitable for a little while is because people in the Philippines were making literally pennies. Like, it's like a couple dollars a day to play a game all day long. They're putting 8, 12, 14-hour days in to make a few bucks, and to them it was worth it to work for hours and hours and hours for a few dollars, where, obviously somebody in America is not going to put in that amount of time for a little bit. So, but if you are willing to work that many hours to put out scam ads of various types, you are for sure 100%, going to flood the market with as many as you can. It's like casting a wide net. And so I think that's why there are so many, and it's hard to combat, because when you've got thousands of people putting hundreds or thousands of them out every day, that's a tough thing. Like, it floods the system with scams. And then it also is tough for any algorithm to really find all of them.
So to me, it's worse than the Nigerian prince on Craigslist. Remember the Nigerian prince that would send you travel checks and whatever? Okay. And again, I'm going to be controversial, but I think this is one of the reasons I don't believe Facebook Marketplace will overtake the e-commerce space. And if you want to edit this is episode 276, where Orlando will be wrong by episode 400, whatever. I don't think it's going to happen. And one of the reasons there's a major issue right now. I was looking up news stories. Stolen goods. The easiest place to sell stolen goods now is Facebook Marketplace. Right? It's kind of like, it's easier because not only was it like Craigslist where, you sell something stolen and that's it. Like, no one can trace you, right? But now, like, Facebook Marketplace, like, there's so much of it out there. Like, you're just one of thousands of people doing this, right? So I came across this news story. Police say it's a growing illegal industry, which we already know, massive organized retail theft in which internet-savvy criminals shoplift pricey items from the shelves of big box retailers and sell them on Facebook Marketplace and similar items. A detective from in Ohio says a trio of investigators began busting organized shoplifting rings long before the wave of cities began acknowledging the problem in recent weeks. He recently helped arrest somebody that said it was easier for them to sell stolen goods on Facebook Marketplace than to sell drugs. And they go on, but basically the idea is that now Facebook Marketplace has become the go-to destination for organized rings, right? Because it's easy to offload their loot, has already gained the reputation among investigators for being slow to respond, which I think that's a major issue in Facebook Marketplace, right? They have no customer service wing for like shipping, for customer issues, removing negative feedback. It's not like eBay where eBay has all that. It's all there, right? And even Amazon, even though Amazon doesn't get back to you right away, you can still at least eventually get to somebody, right? And so they said here, it's easy to offload their loot because their reputation, investigators for being so slow to respond and cooperate, the officers have often given up to invent workarounds. Right. And that's why I think unless Facebook Marketplace fixes this issue on the whole seller side and the buyer side of, lack of customer service, lack of, resolving shipping issues, resolving defects, they also have no barrier to entry. I know a lot of people, don't like the fact that on eBay, you can only list so many items at a time. And I don't know, is there a limit on Facebook Marketplace, how much you can list?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments.
There probably is some, but the thing is you can easily make another Facebook account, right? Like making Facebook accounts is much easier than making an eBay account.
Correct. So that's why I think eBay and Amazon is still going to be the major players for a long time, unless Facebook Marketplace fixes this. So that's our retail stories. I had another one about Amazon Prime, but we'll save that for another time.
Yeah. The nice thing with the Facebook Marketplace, to be honest, is there are a lot of scams out there, but in some ways it's almost easier than OfferUp. I mean, there are people who have good reputation on OfferUp where they've sold, you see how many stars they have. They've got a lot of good reviews. You feel pretty confident buying from them or selling to somebody with a lot of reviews. The thing with Facebook Marketplace is somebody could have never sold anything and been like, I want to sell this couch. And you can actually look at their profile. And if it's a real person that's like got several hundred followers and you see pictures of their kids and their house and their vacation they went on, you could be like, yeah, they're probably selling a couch, so it's in some ways easier to have credibility. I think if you're buying things from somebody who has a brand new account, because that even happens on OfferUp. There's times where somebody's trying to buy something or sell something and it seems scammy and it's like their account was created on January 15th and it's like January 16th when they're offering and you're like, yeah, I don't know if I believe this person. Facebook Marketplace though, like it could just be somebody who's had a Facebook account forever and they're a legitimate person. There is a little bit of credibility there. So there are benefits to it. But yeah, I think especially if you're doing the shipping, that's where it gets a little bit more shady. But yeah, you can look at somebody's life potentially and decide, do they seem trustworthy?
Yeah, agreed. So anyways, we'll see what happens. Now, speaking of social media, if you haven't been following us yet on social, we are PRSO Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are a PRSO Cast on Twitter. You can always give us a call if you have any questions or any commentary, 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. You could also shoot us an email, PRSOpodcast@gmail.com. That's PRSOpodcast@gmail.com. If you've been listening to us and you haven't checked us out on YouTube, Mike and I will soon be dropping videos again. We've kind of were in this kind of repairing ourselves from Q4 season, hoping to drop some videos again along with the podcast. And we always have our Monday mini-sodes, which are exclusive to YouTube. So if you can jump on over PRSO Podcast, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button right now, and hit that bell notification. Greatly appreciated. And as always, if you can write us a review on iTunes, always helps us out on the algorithm. We are the #1 rated reselling podcast and #1 reselling podcast out there. Thanks to all of you that support us. All right. Are you ready for Bolos?
Yeah.
Bolo.
What's your Bolo?
Yeah. Bolo time. Everybody loves the Bolos.
I love that sound.
Yeah.
Thank you to who made that. It's been so long.
I don't remember. If you made that for us, shoot us a DM or something, an email. We'd love to shout you out again, like legit. All right. And maybe that's a call too. If you're creative and you want to make some artwork, we'd gladly take artwork. We'll gladly take music. We'll take anything you want to send to make PRSO Podcast better. If you want to help us create some cool designs, some t-shirt designs, like you're part of the family. You are part of this family. We're pure hustlers.
There you go.
All right. What's your Bolo?
Okay, no, you go ahead. I've talked a lot.
All right. So my Bolo is, we've talked about books and book sets before. And a lot of times I like to sell, if I'm going to sell like kid or young adult books, I like them to be complete sets or like big sets where it's like Nancy Drew, 1 through 50 or whatever it is. I sold a Fraggle Rock set and it was like 12 books together and I sold them for a pretty good price.
Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, that was great. But it's pretty interesting. So my wife and I, we went to a thrift store a while back and we actually made a video on it. It was thrifting with the family video. And she found at the thrift store in like a bag, and it was actually like 2 different bags like hung up. Sometimes they hang up bags that have like toys or books and whatever in them. And 2 of the bags that were hung up were American Doll books. And so it was like, I guess sometimes, I don't know if they were sold with the dolls or like just if you've got the Tiffany doll or the whatever doll, but these were a little bit older. Like these were from like the 90s, I think. One of them might've been like late 80s. And they're hardbound, kind of like the kid books, like almost like the Disney hardbound books. So they're not in like perfect condition. They're not very big. They're easy to ship, but there wasn't like a complete set of them. It was, just the this one, that one. And so we didn't really want to lot them together because we're like this, if somebody's looking for one of these, it's not really going to work.
Yeah. But
our total cost per book was like 25 cents or 50 cents. It's like, let's just list them for like $12 each. And we've been consistently selling those. Like I think we picked up like 10 of them or something like that. And I think we just sold our last one and they've been selling for like anywhere from 10 to 15 bucks. And so it just kind of opened my eyes to, even if it's not a set, like if it's an older book of something collectible, something that people are interested in, you can do really good in that. Cause a lot of times people are trying to, I used to have that book, or, my kid, I pulled it out and my grandkid destroyed it. And it's like, I wanted that book back, or am giving my granddaughter a new American Girl doll. And so I want to give her the book that goes with it, even if it's an older one. So my Bolo is essentially older collectible books that are kid books or specifically to things like that. Like I've even sold some old Pokemon books and things like that, where it's in the collector's market. So it's something that people collect and then there's a book that goes along with it. You can tend to do well on those, even if it's not a complete set. So don't disregard the one-offs if it's of the right book type.
Agreed. I gotta say, book collections are nice to pick up. They don't last too long, So mine is not a major profit maker, but it's a quick seller. And I've mentioned this. I hope this is not a repeat Bolo, but travel irons. So what I mean by travel irons are basically like these very like small irons. They're not metal. They're like plastic usually. And they're in a, you can pretty much pack them anywhere and they're pretty efficient. But you'll see them at the thrift store at garage sales. I've never paid more than $5 and they always sell for $30 plus shipping, or maybe at the low end, 20 to 25, but they don't last more than a week or two, right? Because when people are traveling, right, if they're going to travel somewhere maybe once a year, like they don't want to go all out and drop $50+ on something that they're only going to use once, right? But they're willing to go to eBay, right, and go, you know what, I'll spend, 20 or $30, and maybe if I use it again, I'll use it again. But if I don't, that's okay too. And so keep an eye out for travel irons. I think one of the companies was Steam X. I can't remember. But travel irons do really well for me. I always pick them up when I can. And then also there's the European ones that you got to make sure that the plug at the end works for American outlets. But some of those go for even more money. All right, so keep an eye out for travel irons.
That's good.
All right, now also something that's portable and helps us out a lot is our skull shavers.
Yeah.
And so recently I had to get up early to go to a wrestling tournament, and I didn't want to look, all scruffy and stuff. And so, 4:50 in the morning while I'm on the road, I'm just shaving my head with that skull shaver, and I look crisp and clean when I arrive.
I'm not sure that's legal, but I've done it too. Because it's so easy, I mean, I've seen somebody playing a trombone on the road, so a skull shaver can't be that bad.
The trombone. Oh yeah, you shared that on here, haven't you? Yeah. That's just wild, man. So anyways, if you haven't yet, check them out. It's skullshaver.com, and you can use a promo code PHP to get a discount.
Yeah, that is PHP for the best discount you can possibly imagine. And even if it's not the greatest discount, it is a great discount for us because it lets them know that we sent you over. And it's one of those ways you can help support Pure Hustle Podcast. And then when you're looking bald and beautiful like we are, you just got that extra connection with Pure Hustle Podcast.
There you go. All right, Mike, what are you looking forward to here?
kind of same as last week. I want this fifth wheel to sell, but the nice thing is I think we're done working on it. So, I mean, I'm talking, I can't even begin to put in how many hours I've spent underneath this thing, digging out wires, repairing stuff, working on motors, fixing the outside, moving, we had a temporary fencing set up. I had to take down, we had to clean everything. Like, it has been hours and hours and hours. And so even if it doesn't sell right away, I think I have more time now because I don't have to go down there and spend 3-4 hours every night working on stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting through some of my death piles, getting some stuff listed, maybe actually going sourcing again, hitting up a garage sale. That would feel real good.
Now, would you say you still have stuff that you can list without having to go out?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got a handful of things that, miscellaneous things that I just haven't been listed yet, but I haven't taken the time to list them because I've been busy. So I'm definitely going to pound out my death piles first and then go get the new stuff.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm stuck right now because I want to keep sourcing, but I don't need a source. Right. I even have some stuff in our studio right now that just stuff hasn't been listed.
Well, just think about inflation, right? So sourcing obviously is good, but the longer you let a death pile sit, unless it's a rare collectible item, you're actually kind of losing.
Yeah.
Because the price you're going to be able to sell for isn't going to increase as quickly as inflation is increasing. And so if you'd have sold it 6 months ago, you'd have had that money and that money was worth more than if you sell it for the same price today. So, if you've got death piles, get those things listed. I'm a big believer. You got to have the fun part of reselling. You got to do some sourcing. You don't want to run out of inventory. But if you've got a lot of stuff to list, get the listings done.
I just bring that up because I remember before, I really started reselling, there was a YouTube influencer that had talked about how they still have 400 to 500 items in their shed that they just never listed. And I thought,
how big of an influencer were they?
They're pretty popular at that time.
Yeah. So again, and I don't know anything about that specific instance, but we've talked in the past about, reseller influencers lying to you. Sometimes they don't even need to.
No, but they showed it though.
But what I'm saying though is they don't always need to list because they can sometimes make enough money off of the content they created, right? Like I spent $50 at a garage sale. I'm going to make $300 off this YouTube video that I make. So I make $250 whether or not I sell anything anyways.
Okay. No, I see your point. I know that's true, but this individual actually showed it and everything. The point I was trying to make, I thought that was crazy. I'm like, how can that even happen? And now I'm that guy.
Oh man,
I am that guy. And, but I'm still, here's the thing. I love the hunt. Who does not love the hunt?
Nope.
Right. No one likes, I like Netflix and listing. I do like doing that. Mike hates it, but no one likes the shipping part. No one likes the listing part more than the hunt. Like if you could just sort, and I'm hoping to get that. One of my goals is by the end of the year to not even ship anymore. I don't know how I'm going to make that happen, but that's one of my goals. But anyways, so my goal, what I'm looking forward to is I want to really try this out. I only want to go to a thrift store once a week, if that. And I want to make all my deals local. I am done with the thrift stores. The other day I was at one and I just felt gross in there. The reason I felt gross, it was like they're making you source the leftovers. Right. All the good stuff they have on their online site, all the good stuff, they've figured something else to do with it. So what you're sourcing is their scraps. And I just get tired of it. I'm
waiting for the thrift stores to get the blowback that resellers get of that stuff is supposed to be going to people who can't afford it. So that,
right.
Right.
Why don't they get it?
That super rare North Face jacket should be going to, people who can't afford, stuff, and resellers come in and take it. But nobody has a problem when the thrift stores turn around and flip that stuff for the most,
Yeah.
And they're not thinking about their lowest income customers.
And I know other parts of the country are different, but I got to tell you, in San Diego, it is bad. It is so bad. And it's not getting any better. So I'm looking forward to that, which means I can't wait to go to garage sales. I think I do have a free weekend coming up where I don't have to get up early and go to a tournament. And so I'm looking forward to sourcing. I'm looking forward to, sending out my business card to people and hopefully making bigger deals later on. So stay tuned. Catch us on YouTube. If I do go to a successful garage sale, I'm hoping to turn that into a YouTube video that will drop soon.
Yeah.
So With that being said, hopefully you all are having incredible sales, and everything that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast is not your experience. But if it is, let us know in the comments below. Either way, or maybe what you're doing to make things different, or how you think, things are going to change over this next year. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Blades.
Peace.